Hi, I'm Kayla, the booktube turtle, and today I'm going to be talking about Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. We're going to talk about Chain of Iron. It's a sequel to Chain of Gold. If you want to know what this specific trilogy is about and my thoughts on the first book, you can watch my review discussion video that I have, which I will link in the cards. But yes, I gave this book 5 stars. I think I enjoyed it more than Chain of Gold. But I'm also not sure because last year I was like really in a reading slump, so like I wasn't super enjoying anything I was reading. And I'm in a much different place at this point. But yeah, I had a lot of fun reading this book. That's kind of all I can say before we get into like spoilers and stuff. This discussion is probably going to be all over the place because this book is so long and so much stuff happens. So like obviously I'm not going to be able to go through everything. It's not going to be in order, but it's fine. So in Chain of Iron, we kind of have this like murder mystery thing going on where shadow hunters are turning up dead, and they like think it's a demon, but they're not completely sure because the murders are like happening at night, but it's like kind of when it's really close to dawn, so it's very confused on who is killing people. And then we have James, who is like seeing the murders in his dreams as they happen. So of course naturally he's just like, am I the one killing people? Like, no, James, no. You're connected to your demon grandfather, who's probably the one killing people, and you just happen to be seeing it because of your connection through your bloodline. Then we find out that the shadow hunters that are dying, there's like at least one rune missing off of them. And I'm just like, oh, is Belial stealing the runes, and for some reason because he's like stealing them he's able to use them even though he's not a shadow hunter or something? It took me a really long time to actually put all of these pieces together, way longer than it should have. So yeah, I was just like, okay, well Belial is probably possessing someone because he can't be in like the human realm as a demon, like just himself. And then at some point, Cordelia's father, Elias, dies, and he like recognizes the killer. So I'm just like, oh, it's somebody that they know. So then I was like, okay, well maybe Belial is possessing James, and James just like doesn't know it, which I guess is kind of what James was thinking, and that's why he was like, I need y'all to watch me sleep. I don't know, but all throughout this book, I was just constantly like, you all need to tell your parents what is going on so that they can help you. Because I'm just like, it's not like your parents haven't also gotten mixed up in things when they were your age. Then we find out that the killer is supposedly someone who was dead, and you would think that at this point I would be like, oh, we know someone who's dead, but I still just, it wasn't clicking. I'm just thinking, oh, maybe it's like somebody else that we like kind of know who died, even though like we have somebody who's very prominent in these books who is dead, and I just didn't think about it. So then a while later, we then find out that the stolen runes from the dead shadow hunters are appearing on Jesse's body. And I am still like, oh, so is like the killer who's possessed by Belial stealing the runes and then like transferring them to Jesse? So I was still just like, okay, well, who's being possessed then? I'm dumb. I don't know why I couldn't. I don't know. But I was so shook when we do finally find out that it's Jesse being possessed. And I'm just like, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. And I just couldn't get there on my own. When I got to like when I found that out, I was just like, oh, duh. I don't know. And then like along with that, we also find out that Jesse died from his first rune all that time ago because there was like a little piece of Belial inside of him, and so because there was like a little bit of demon in him, he like couldn't withstand like the angelic power from the runes. All because Tatiana doesn't freaking trust shadow hunters. Okay, so let's talk about James and Cordelia. They actually for real got married. I like didn't know going into the book. I was just like, are they just gonna be like engaged for a while? But no, they for real got married. And I am really glad though that like everyone in their little group knows that it's fake. I feel like that makes it a lot easier to just be casual and not like constantly worried about like, oh, are we like doing a good enough job of keeping up this act when it's just, you know, the group of kids. But as predicted, there was so much angst throughout this book because like they're both clearly in love with each other, but they're just like, but the other one doesn't feel the same, and this is all just fake. We're just pretending because of everything that went down at the end of the previous book. And then there were times when they were acting like they almost got caught like doing something wrong because they were like kissing or something, and somebody like almost walked in on them, and they're just like, oh, like we can't do that. And I'm just like, you guys are literally married. They do eventually kiss though, and the bracelet, Grace's bracelet on James falls off. It was just like, yes. Of course, then he like passes out or something and his eyes turn black, and it's real concerning, but like he's fine. But then towards the end we have Grace who like comes over to their house and is just like trying to get him back under her control or whatever. And James like kind of plays along for a second, and he's just like, yeah, come in. And like Cordelia just runs out of the house because I don't know, I guess she thinks that everything that happened between them really was fake, and he's like gonna get back together with Grace or whatever. And I'm just like, if you could have just stayed for like 5 seconds, you would have known what was actually going on. But you just like ran out the door. Why? And then she agrees to go to Paris with Matthew, which I'm just, why are you going to Paris right now? I'm like, yeah, I love Matthew and I love his and Cordelia's like friendship, but like Matthew likes Cordelia, but Cordelia is in love with James, and it's gonna get real messy. So then we have Grace, and we have this bracelet, this stupid bracelet that James like literally cannot take off. And so we learn that the bracelet was made by Belial, who gave it to Tatiana to give to Grace to give to James. Because at some point, Tatiana took Grace to this guy who gave her the power of like influence over men's like thoughts and feelings and stuff, so she could like manipulate them, but it didn't work on James, which I think we find out it's because he already like has magic in his blood because of Tessa being his mother. But the bracelet has like extra power, so like when he's wearing that, she is able to control him, which gets really weird because it's almost like he's like starting to like lose memories, and it gets real crazy. Though like thankfully when the bracelet does break, things get like a lot clearer for him, and he like remembers things a lot more, and it's just like, okay, we're good. It's not like a permanent issue. I did feel kind of bad for Grace though at like various points throughout the story, because like she does just want her brother back and her mother's approval, but I'm also still just like, you're choosing to do terrible and manipulative things even when Tatiana doesn't even have direct control over you right now because she's not even here. And I'm also wondering why Tatiana wants James under their control. I don't remember if this was actually answered in the book or not. I definitely like had some theories of like oh, like if it was like somehow connected to Jesse and like, oh, maybe she wants to like use James's body to like put Jesse in, or maybe she's planning some kind of like ritual or whatever, like kill James to bring Jesse back, like life for a life kind of thing. There's a lot of talk of necromancy throughout this book and how it's bad. It's also usually Malcolm Vade telling us it's bad, and I'm just like, then why did you raise Annabelle from the dead? And then throughout the book, Grace and Lucy are working together to figure out a way to bring Jesse back, and I'm just like, Lucy, no. Why are you working with her? So like I said about Malcolm Vade, they go to him to talk about like necromancy and potentially get help from him, and he wants to know about Annabelle Blackthorn, who is supposedly an Iron Sister, which we know is not true. Also, TDA spoilers coming up. If you haven't read that, mute until I give you a thumbs up. So Tatiana tells Grace that Annabelle is dead and has been for nearly a century. Love that. So of course Grace goes like straight to Malcolm. It's just like, yeah, she's dead. And I'm like, you could have delivered that a little better. And I think even Lucy's like that too. Like, you can't just tell somebody that the way you just did. So yeah, Grace tells Malcolm that Annabelle is dead, and the whole time I'm just like, this is the reason for the dark artifices. Because he brings Annabelle back from the dead because he learns that she's dead. And that whole thing is the reason that Livy dies. And I'm still not okay. Okay, we're moving on. Let's talk about Lucy and Jesse. So we get a lot of them in this book. We get a lot of like little cute moments, like when they dance together in the snow. And we just kind of learn more about that. They talk about like her little book that she's writing, little things like that. We definitely see more of like the development of like a romantic relationship that there wasn't much of in the previous book, even though like everybody knew that was what was gonna happen. But anyway, so they're trying to figure out how to bring him back. Then they find out that he's being possessed by Belial. And we know that Lucy can command ghosts. We learned this in the previous book. And so she like commands him to cast Belial out of his body, and it works. And then she commands him to like be alive, come back to life, whatever, and that works too. Which is really exciting, but I'm also very, very, very concerned, because I'm just like, if she can just command him back to life, it seems too easy. And I'm very sketched out. I feel like there's gonna be some kind of consequence, something as a result that like is gonna balance out bringing him back, or there's gonna be something not quite right about him, the way there was something not quite right about Annabelle. But I don't know, because Jesse was kind of in this weird in-between state, so I don't know what that means for him being alive fully again. Also, isn't Lucy like missing at the end of this book? I'm pretty sure she's missing because James tries to go with Cordelia and Matthew, and Will is like, no, like we need to go find your sister. So is that somehow connected to the bringing Jesse back to life thing? Then we have Cordelia and this whole issue with her sword Cortana. So as like the book goes on, it becomes more and more difficult for her to use, and it like burns her or whatever. And she's like goes off on this whole thing like, oh, I'm not like worthy anymore or whatever. And I'm just like, what? But then we learn it's really just Lilith being terrible. So she and Matthew go to see Waylon the Smith, except it's not actually him. And Cordelia makes a pact deal thing with him and like pledges her loyalty to him or something, where she's just like, yeah, I'll fight in your name. Which is terrifying, because we do later find out that she actually made that pact with Lilith, mother of demons. So I'm scared to see where we go with that in the next book, and like how much control Lilith actually has over her. If it's just, I don't know. I guess we'll see. Honestly, the whole thing with Lilith disguising herself as literally everyone was so annoying and terrifying, because we also find out that she was Magnus at the Shadowhunter market, and she pretended to be Matthew so she could get the Pythos back from Christopher, and she pretended to be Waylon the Smith, and I'm just like, we need a code word or something so that we know that who we're talking to is actually who we're talking to, because we gave so much information out to all these people who are on our side, except they were all actually Lilith, and that's a problem. So I wonder how that's gonna like play into the next book, if she's still gonna be like impersonating other people, what's gonna come of that, we'll see. Okay, and then we have Thomas and Alistair. I loved them so much in this book. I was so here for it. So first we have Thomas, who decides that he's gonna go out at night and hunt for the killer even when he's not on the patrol schedule, which, like, yeah, okay, you're an adult, you do you, but I'm also just like, can you at least tell somebody where you're going and what you're doing? Because he doesn't. He just like leaves, and I'm like, Thomas. Because then he gets arrested because he's found over a dead Shadowhunter body, and he wasn't on the schedule. Nobody knew where he was. And then we have the Inquisitor, Bridgestock, who I hate. He really wants it to be Thomas. He wants to pin it on somebody because it'll look good to the Clave that he like took action and like caught the killer in a reasonable amount of time. And everything is chaos. Thomas is being held in the sanctuary. The parents are there, the kids are there. Everybody's just like, why is Thomas being held? He didn't do this. This is stupid and ridiculous. Let him out. And then who shows up? Alistair. And he's just like, yeah, Thomas didn't do it because I've been following him around every night and watching where he goes, and like, the Shadowhunter girl, he didn't kill her. And I'm just like, of course you've been following him around. What? And like, Thomas, there were like a few mentions here and there where he was just like, I feel like I'm being followed. I did not think it was gonna be Alistair, but okay. So then they decide that Alistair's gonna stay in the sanctuary too until Will and Tessa can get back from wherever they were with the mortal sword. They're gonna be locked in the sanctuary for hours. That's plenty of time for something to happen, and then it does. And it was very exciting because I really wanted them to get together, and then they did. I do wonder though what the others from their group are gonna think, because they all kind of hate Alistair. But he's not terrible. I mean, he's done some bad things, but like, he's not terrible now. Anyway, so then Will and Tessa come back with the mortal sword. They ask a bunch of questions and essentially clear Thomas of any of the killings. And I just hate Bridgestock because, like, the sword proves Thomas's innocence. So like, we have to let him go. But Bridgestock is just like, no, I don't believe him. But like, you literally cannot lie if you're holding the mortal sword. So like, he just wants to pin it on this kid so it can just be wrapped up, even though the actual killer is still out there. And it was just really frustrating. Also, it was hilarious Will asking Thomas if Gideon is aware that he owes him money. I just thought that was hilarious. I love Will Herondale so much. So yeah, we also have the ending little epilogue chapter thing where Tatiana is with Belial and she gives him a key to the Iron Tombs. What is that? Like, what is there? What is it? What did she give him access to? What is he gonna be able to do with that access? I just want to know what it means. And where he takes her at the end when they just like, whatever. Other questions I have. How long are Cordelia and Matthew gonna be in Paris? What's gonna happen while they're in Paris? Because Cordelia, I guess, thinks that James is back with Grace now, even though James turned Grace into the Silent Brothers for like her manipulative magic and whatnot. I'm just concerned. What are going to be the consequences of bringing Jesse back to life? Because I feel like there's going to be something that happens because it's too easy as it is right now. Where's Lucy? Is she okay? Are we going to be able to find her? What is going on with that? Is this going to be the point when James finally comes clean to Will and Tessa? All of the kids really just need to group together, sit all the parents down and be like, this is what's been going on and we need your help because we're kind of in over our heads. Like, just tell them. So yeah, that's it for this video. I really enjoyed this book. I have a lot of questions and theories for the next book. And if there's anything that I didn't talk about in this video, you can leave a comment below and we can discuss it. I'm down to talk about it. I just obviously did not want this video to be a million years long. Let me know what your favorite part was of the book, who your favorite character is at this point, whatever else you want to talk about. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.